Hi, today we're gonna replace the whole strut assembly here. I bought ones that were already put together, so we're gonna go ahead and replace those. I know these aren't the best things in the world. I think I got them both for maybe a little over $100 with shipping online on eBay. And I'm gonna also replace the sway bar links, which are right here. Since I'm already taking this off, I'm just gonna go ahead and replace those. It's not too difficult to do on this vehicle. This is a 2005 Volvo S60. Most of the Volvo line, I think from 05 to maybe like 99, they're all pretty much similar. I think the S80 is similar to this, and the S60s are all similar. Even the turbo models, I think they might be the same. But anyways, first you want to do is jack up your vehicle. Make sure you have jack stands. And secure it, make sure, you know, and then get your wheel taken off. That's the primary things to do, get that off. But I'm not going to show you how to do that. That's pretty self-explanatory. But the next things we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to start removing this actual strut. It's pretty simple. A couple bolts here, they're pretty big bolts. Depending on what type of tools you can get your hands on to get these off, they're pretty tight. I had already taken this one off and put a used one on there, but it wasn't any good, so I ended up buying some new ones. There's 3 bolts on the top in the engine compartment that you're going to take off. I think they're 13, 14 millimeter or something like that. And then you have these ones right here. The sway bar link, I believe it's like an 18 millimeter. And then these ones here I think are 21, and then on the other side is 18 millimeters. So you want to be able to hold one on one side and then unbolt it unless you have an impact of some kind. I am using my DeWalt impact, trying this out. It's pretty awesome. I was able to take the wheels off, so I don't have to use a compressor. So now next thing what we're going to do is we're going to start removing these bolts. There is a sensor here. You got to make sure to push the rubber grommet through and take that off, and then kind of move it to the side. You want to move the wheel and open it up so that you have room to get in here. If you try to do it with the wheel shed, it's going to be a little tough to get in there. It's just a little bit easier to access this. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So first thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and take off or loosen these bolts here and then take off the sway bar link bolt. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So I believe this is a 21 socket. So if you have an impact, this might just work. Pretty simple. And then the bottom one. So you want to take those 2 bolts off first. I wouldn't put the studs out yet until you take the sway bar link nut off. I believe that one's an 18 millimeter. So you want to go ahead and pull that off. Again, if you're going to do this manually, you're going to have a hard time. So you want some kind of an impact, either with an air compressor gun or one of these little bad boys that I just picked up. Are pretty nice. So we're going to move that out of the way. We're going to go ahead and try to work this sensor out. Just kind of get it out of the way. This whole thing's going to move forward on us, and then we're going to be able to lift the strut and get it out. What we're going to do is we're going to want to take these bolts off and just be real careful taking them off. Bang them out. You can use a rubber mallet or something. You don't want to use anything with metal. You don't want to mess up the threads on these. This whole thing's going to want to come towards you. So once you work these 2 bolts out, then you can take the bolts up on top off. So up here in the engine compartment there's 3 13 millimeter bolts. We want to take those off. So once we got these 3 out, then the strut's going to be ready to come out. Those 3 out, this strut's going to be ready to come out. So just be careful pulling this thing too far forward. You don't want to damage this sensor here. So it's a little tricky. Once the strut comes down, then we just got to maneuver getting it out, which is the fun part. And there it is. We got it out. So this thing came out. I believe there's only one way it goes in because of the way these line up. But just make sure when you pull it down, just mark it if you know which one is what screw goes in what hole. That way you're not putting this thing backwards. You're not putting this thing backwards in a certain way, and then it's just not sitting right when you get it up there. Okay? So we got that out of the way. And then next thing what we want to do is we want to go ahead and take off the other bolt on the bottom of that link. So the bottom bolt on the sway bar link is smaller, and the one on the top is bigger. So just make sure when you put the ones that, when you get your new ones, make sure that you look at that. This one on top is an 18 millimeter. The one on the bottom is a 15 millimeter. Really? Come on. Well, sometimes this happens. That bottom nut is just spinning. So now these things actually have a Torx or Allen wrench. I think it's a, looks like a Torx, which we're gonna have to do this manually. Bottom one here is a T30, the Torx part of it. The nut's spinning on me even with the impact, so now I'm gonna have to do this manually, which basically means I gotta get a ratchet and hold it, and then basically use a ratchet and then use a wrench and loosen the bolt up. I gotta hold the Torx. I'll show you what I'm doing in just a second. That's hard to get you in here. All right. So basically what I did is we have this Torx bit here, and then we got the bolt here. That back on there. So all I was doing, I was holding this here, and I was holding the Torx, and I was basically loosening it up. Once I got it loosened up, I was just able to crank this closed, and it took off the bolt. Sometimes these things, they kind of get stuck, and then this thing's just spinning on you. I don't know if these things are bad, but I'm replacing them. They were pretty cheap. So remember, the smaller bolt goes on the bottom, the bigger one goes up on top. So let's get our new part. So I got these on eBay, pretty cheap. So if you look at them, this one's actually bigger, this one's smaller, so this is going to go to the bottom, like this. So I'm going to go at 40. So I'm just using some any type of grease or anything, just on the thread a little bit. Just so when these go in, I'm not going to have a hard time. Sometimes when you're putting these on, they like to get stuck. But I know these bolts, they go on one way, and then they're supposed to, if you look at them, once they tighten up, they're not supposed to come out. Put that on there. And I'm just going to put it on there. I'm not going to tighten it up completely until I get both of them on there, and then that way I could go ahead and tighten those down. We're going to take our tower here. As I'm looking at this, it looks like there's only one way this thing will go in. The two bolts will be facing you, the ones that are closer together. If you go like this, they're not really even, they're kind of crooked. So if you look at them, the one that is by itself is going to go towards the engine, and the other two should face out. If you spin them, they're just not going to go in, they're just not going to line up. So you want to make sure they're lined up. And then you want all this other stuff facing you. The part here, trying to get this strut back in there. So they do come with new screws for the top. So I'm going to put those up there. Make sure we use the new screws. I'm sorry, the new nuts. Comes with new nuts. But these things have protective sleeves on them. I didn't see that. I mean, I guess they're trying to protect the studs. They didn't say anything on the instructions to take these little sleeves out, so I was wondering why I couldn't get the nuts on there. Oh my God, struggling with that. All right, Attempt number 2. Let's get it back in there. Push it down a little bit. Get it down. That's probably why I was having a hard time feeding it up there too, because it wasn't going in through the hole. What I do is feed the strut through here. Get one of the studs through, then just go ahead and just put something on there so you're able to kind of hold it down. And then once you kind of tighten these down, I'm going to turn this. Now I'm not going to tighten these all the way down. I just kind of want to hold it on there for now. And make sure you put that third one on there. So go ahead and put that third one on there. I'm not going to torque it all the way down. It's kind of snug. Figure out the best way to show you here. And straighten out the wheel. That I didn't tighten this up. Because this has to go, sway arm's got to go behind this, like that. Here. Might help me a little bit in pushing this thing back up. Anything to help you out. It's great. Just gonna tighten that real quick. I'm gonna push down on our bolt caliper and drum of this. It's like that. Push down on there. Jiggle it back and forth so you can get that bolt in there. Put those 2 bolts back on there. Right. Just tighten everything hand tight, as tight as you can get it. And then what we're going to go ahead and do and then tighten the bolts down, we're going to swing this back open again so that we can get to those bolts. So once you swung this back open again, now you have access to these bolts again. These 2 and this one here, and then the one on the bottom. We need our 21. We need our 18. We're going to hold it on the other side. This thing doesn't spin on us. So I'm just going to double check and make sure it's nice and tight. I'm sure it is, but yeah, it's tight. Now that we got that tightened, we're going to go. Now what we want to do here, in order to straighten this out, we need to get a bar in between here to push down so that this thing straightens out. If you have an extra person, this would be ideal to use them. Doing this by yourself is a little bit tough. even though I'm going to attempt to do it myself. So what we want to do, get our 18mm ready. And what we're going to do is we're going to push down on this so that the sway bar link evens out for us. Okay, so now we're on the bottom bolt. I want to try. Okay, guys. This is funny. This is really funny. Real important here, when you buy your parts and they're not factory OEM. So, I've been struggling with this, right? Didn't realize why. Thinking my bits are getting all jacked up, and I know why. The original one is a Torx. The aftermarket one is an Allen wrench. Different type of bit. Yeah. That's why you're having problems, buddy. That's why. Okay. Alright. It's always something. But if it doesn't happen, you don't know. So now we're going in with a different type of bit. Now it shouldn't spin on us. There we go. There we go. Right. Now we're tightening it up. Okay. Well, at least I know the other side will be a lot easier now that we know what we're dealing with. It seemed kind of odd that I would have stripped out two different bits. This didn't make any sense. Okay, nice and tight there. Let's go ahead and make sure really tight. Check it with my impact real quick. Find my 18. 19. Should be 17 there. Hit it quick. Pop because it's tight. Get our sensor back through there. In. That's tight, that's tight. These two are tight. Now let's go up on top and finish tightening those up real quick. That's pretty much it, guys. So you do the same thing on the other side. So again, the 3 bolts up on top, the 2 bolts here. You take this off if you're just replacing just the actual strut tower. If you're gonna do the whole, if you're replacing these bushings or anything like that, you're gonna need a special clamp to close. That's pretty dangerous. I don't even want to mess with that. I usually take that to one of my buddies and have them do it. It's not worth it, man. Losing an eye or an arm or something. These guys have special tools that they use. They put it in a vise and it kind of closes it down, and then they're able to get everything out of there safely without using these clamps that Harbor Freight sells or any of these other places sell. I had bought some of those and I just never used them. I wasn't comfortable doing it, so I was kind of scared. So I just decided not to even mess with it. But that's pretty much it. This is like I said, this is an 05. I believe this goes all the way down to 99 on the S60s. The S80, I owned a few of those. They should be similar to this. So most of them are going to have that similar thing. That's pretty much it. I hope this video helps. Thanks for watching.